Hello everybody, it's Thorfinn here, and today what I want to kind of talk about here is, of course, the Pickems, right, for playoffs. So I was going to do this on VLR originally, so I can kind of talk about and look at match histories and stuff, but I've looked it over before I made this video, so I'm going to kind of talk about everything first. So here I'm going to talk about each team and kind of why I think that they're going to do, if they're going to do well or going to do bad. First, DRX, I think they're not going to do good. They have crowd advantage for sure, but I also think that there's outside factors going into this team. Same thing with Lev, pretty much the exact same situation. And personally, like, I don't want to support them. And also, I think Sen are just going to dominate them. But I think DRX is probably going to be, like, okay. But for me, what I've seen from their map pool, it's not that great. And I also think that they're very inconsistent. And they have yet to show me that they have what it takes to beat top level teams. So with Sen, I think Sen are basically like on a hot streak right now. They have insane confidence. They beat the returning champs, aka gen.g, and I think that they look in form. Every single one of them look like they're ready to play. And one thing about the Sentinels Madrid run is that Saucy played like really bad statistically, but he has been frying. And I think if every single one of them is online and there's really no weak points mechanically, Sen is going to be able to take out a team like DRX and even more teams. Trace versus EDG. EDG has dog walked Trace every single time. Trace also hasn't showed a lot from their map pool, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. But I've looked at their match history, and the only maps that they seem good on is Bind and Ascent. Every other map that they've played, it's been very hit or miss. So for me, what I think is EDG is just not going to let that happen, and I think EDG is going to beat Trace and go to the upper semis. All right, so then we have G2 versus Lev. This one's pretty obvious. G2 just has like a track record of being able to beat teams who play loose and aggressive. That's like their whole thing. Not only that, Icy got them to third place, being like the third best player on the team. And now he is looking out of his mind. He's looking extremely in form and hella confident. So I think G2 are going to have a very easy run in this upper bracket here, as we'll talk about later. And I think Lev just looks shaky. And again, there's outside stuff as well. So for Heretics and Fnatic, I think a lot of people are going to pick Heretics, and I think Heretics are really good. But you have to think, right? The three players on the team that you think about in terms of, oh, Heretics are playing really well, right? Those teams are, those players are Miniboo, Benji Fishy, and Woot, and all of those guys had a relatively difficult group stage. And I think gen.g kind of didn't really play up to par against Heretics. And I think that they definitely didn't look as good as they did in Shanghai. But one thing that you can say, though, is that Rans has played amazing throughout the group stage. So if Woot, Benji Fishy, and Miniboo can come back online and you have Rans just dominating with his amazing Turkish aim, because Turkish aimers are no fucking joke, Jesus. But personally, I think that Fnatic have a slight edge against Heretics, because they haven't actually played them too much, right? And one time that Fnatic beat Heretics was in a best of 5, if I remember correctly, for Shanghai. And I think that Heretics can be really good, for sure. They've proved that, right? But I think Fnatic is going to get the edge on them in this specific run, just because Durka has been playing out of his mind. And I think that Fnatic is just kind of flow stating right now. They're kind of just like in they're not worried about losing. They have no pressure anymore because they're not the same team that they used to be. And I think Fnatic is going to take like this, like the 2-1, one map goes to OT against Heretics. So, all right, now that I've kind of talked about what I think of each team and kind of like my position on them, I'm going to kind of breeze through these so I don't take up too much of your time, because you want to see my pick'ems and kind of see what everyone's common thing is. As I'll go into this video, I'm going to say this right now. Don't take my pick'ems as the best pick'ems. What I would do is look at a bunch of people's pick'ems that know about the esport, that talk about it a lot, see sort of what things overlap, and kind of put those together if you want to get the safest pick'ems. Or if you're like me, a lot of the times just do pick'ems of like NA, because NA dominance. Sen versus EDG. EDG, not great team. So I think Sen is going to beat them. Fnatic versus G2. I think the thing is, right, I think old Fnatic would beat G2 pretty easily. But they look a lot looser. They look less tight. And G2 have been known to annihilate teams like that, right? Kind of the opposite for Heretics, to be honest, right? Because they've lost to gen.g, and the team that they've lost to are very like loose confidence-based teams. So I think G2 can definitely just has the matchup diff versus Fnatic. DRX versus Trace. I think Trace is actually going to beat DRX. I think DRX are going to 0-2 bomb out, but I think Trace realistically can get a good map pool against DRX. A lot of the maps that DRX want to play are maps that Trace have been really good at, and I think in Pacific they haven't really dealt with this double sentinel comp that Trace runs on a lot of maps, and it's really hard to adjust to on the fly without any practice towards it. So I think DRX is definitely going to beat Trace is going to beat DRX. Lev versus Heretics. I mean, I think Heretics beat Lev pretty easily. I think Lev bomb out as well. I mean, it's what we've seen countless times from Lev this year, where they reach a really high and then they just kind of fall off a cliff. And I think with everything happening with that roster, it makes sense. So Sen versus G2. Honestly, I would really love to say that Sen wins this, but realistically, I don't think so. I think G2 is the best team in NA. And I think Icy again is like a big thing for me, that this Icy Zekin matchup, which Zekin would normally, right, on any day of the week, ask anyone through any period of time, even when Sentinels wasn't at Shanghai and Icy was, they would say that, you know, Zekin was going to win that. But I think right now Icy looks really great. I think everyone on G2 is firing on all cylinders. So I'm going to say that G2 actually beat out Sen here, and Sen get dropped into these lower grand finals. Fnatic versus Trace. I think this one is kind of hit or miss, kind of up in the air. I think out of all of the Chinese teams, I think Trace is going to do the best, even though that they're going to get matchup diffed by EDG, just because EDG have played against them all year, right? But I think they can catch these teams off guard. But I'm still going to say that Fnatic are going to be able to beat Trace and go into this lower final here. And EDG versus Heretics, I think Heretics makes the run. Now, like I said, I think Team Heretics is going to lose to Fnatic here, but I don't think that they're going to lose to Fnatic here. So I still think Heretics is going to make that top 3 placement, but I think that in a BO5 versus Sen, Sen has shown that even going from lowers, I'm pretty sure, is when they faced gen.g, right? Even when Sen had to play on Icebox, a map that they weren't very comfortable with at the start of the year, they beat gen.g on it. And I think that Heretics also showed that, right, where they got gassed out in that BO5. And I think it's going to be roughly the same story versus Sentinels. And then Sen versus G2. Honestly, I think G2 has an insane advantage going into this, right? Because they've played Sen throughout the year. They've scrimmed Sen. They've definitely, they know how Sen plays. But my thing is that G2 has yet to show me that they can win a BO5, right? Sentinels have won multiple BO5s, and G2 has lost a BO5 every time they've played it. So in my opinion, it's just experience diff. Sen takes champs. Okay, this could be extremely biased, like I said, so don't take this as the gospel, but these are my personal pick'ems that I'm excited for. As you can see, I'm like 35%. My group was bad. Also, one thing that I didn't notice is I didn't pick by 1st and 2nd seed. But, you know, it's fine. Paper X, why'd you bomb out? God damn it. But, yeah, I will see you guys later. Hope you enjoyed. And peace.